Good evening, guys. My name is Euwarnii Hughes. I'm the CEO of Great Gale, as well as the author and illustrator of Afrofuturism Manga. And with me on this panel tonight are...
Guess I'll go for it. Kwanza Osajyefo. I'm the creator of Black and creative architect of Humanoid's AFROCOMICCON line.
Nice,
And,
nice.
Greg Burnham, co-creator, Tuskegee Airs, creator of The Search for Sadaka, and other stuff that's coming down the pipe.
Awesome. That's super dope. Well, welcome to the Why Afrofuturism Matters panel. And the definition, I know that Mark Derry made a definition of Afrofuturism, but I prefer Yatasha's own. Yatasha Womack said, Afrofuturism is a literary and cultural aesthetic that combines elements of science fiction, historical fiction, fantasy, Afrocentrism, and magical realism with non-Western cosmologies to critique the issue facing the people of color today and also to interrogate and examine the historical events of the past. So all of that ties into Afrofuturism. But what got you guys into Afrofuturism and how did it affect your comics?
I think I've just always been into fantasy and sci-fi, so futurism just as a genre has always appealed to me. But seeing, a lot of the material that was out there that I was consuming, that there wasn't often a Black presence in it. I think it goes without saying across all mediums, there isn't enough of a Black presence in it. And there certainly isn't one where, there's solely a Black presence in it. So, growing up as a kid and watching stuff like the Flintstones and then like the Jetsons and being like, we ain't in the past, we ain't in the future, what's going on here? Had them around. But, it's always been something that, stuck in my mind as a creator today to like really ensure that like there's this element of the culture that I grew up in intersecting into the stuff that I write. So for me, it's just like, it's like a natural territory to play in, but also a new territory to play in because it just hasn't been explored enough. So it's like you get to have like a whole playground where it's like, oh, they ain't let Black people play on these swings before. So now we just got all the swings and all the slides and jungle gym, So it's something that I think is really important and really fun to explore.
Yeah, and just like to that part about where did it start for me, it's the Star Wars and Terminator and being a fan of all of these as a kid. And even before you're necessarily conscious that, of that dynamic that there is, extreme racism when these these properties are being built, one way, shape, or form. But you're a kid and you're just trying to figure out how you can implement yourself into that world, right? So, with Star Wars, you want to be Han Solo, you want to be Luke. I remember, like, I got put on punishment for something. I was maybe a little bit of a bad kid. And so I spent like the whole weekend just writing this story. And in my mind, it was like the dopest story ever. And just to preface, at that time I was living in Missouri on an Air Force base. And there was like 2,000 people in the town right outside of the Air Force base, a very small place, not very many Black people. And I wrote this story and it was like, I'm mature enough to say that it was Black Star Wars. But, as a kid, I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. And I wasn't like, this guy should be Black, or I was just telling my story, like making it, Kwanza said it perfectly. It was natural to me. Yeah. So when we started doing these comics and, telling these stories, it was more of a thing of utilizing what's natural to me, what's natural to us, and telling that story. So I can't say we're like, oh, this got to be Black or that got to be Black, but it just spills out that way, and I'm happy with that. Kwanza made really good points. Like a lot of this stuff has not been done. So, you've had a whole bunch of pilots that you had the Voltrons and that were these young pilots, pilot, but you never had like Black kids do it. You never had them do it where they're not culturally ambiguous, where they're Black and they know they're Black. And their their whole lore is coming off of a great black fighter squadron. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of just natural to go that way. The world needs it. Like all of us are proving that the world needs these stories. So
You're right.
You just said something funny, man, that made me think like black parents when kids are creative, putting them on punishment is hard. It's just like, all right, I'm gonna be our room then.
Man, you had to take air. If you took the oxygen from me, maybe I would feel punished. I would sneak out the window and grab stuff so I could, play G.I. Joe with leaves and yeah.
Awesome. Well, for me, what got me into Afrofuturism, honestly, I grew up like with the whole, Gundam age, grew up on Star Wars and all of that, and even Dexter's Laboratory. And as I got older, I noticed that generally, as you guys have mentioned, the spaces is generally, saturated with, white faces or white narratives or things like that, the general norm. So when I saw Afrofuturism, when I, first saw Tuskegee Airs, because I backed that Kickstarter, that was amazing. You guys are awesome. That was dope, being inspired by you, Kwanza, with your book, Black, and so much more. And then even seeing Black Panther and things like that. All of those culminated into, I was like, wow, this is new and it's exciting. It's the same way how I felt when I first read manga for the first time. So the next question I want to ask is, why does Afrofuturism matter in manga, comics, and beyond?
I'm gonna let you go first, Greg.
Oh, okay. So
I'm doing that long book.
It's funny because we did a panel earlier, and it's like our minds sometimes it seems like we're thinking in that same age. Because when I first saw the title of the panel, the first thing I thought about was the Flintstones and the Jetsons, and how we were looking at those shows. And I'm old, so we're looking at them shows. I don't think it was right when they came out, but watching it, and you're sitting here processing all this information and how cool it would be to have these flying cars, but there's nobody that looks like you, and that's done purposely. There's nobody in the past, there's nobody in the future. Those things you grow up like utilizing those mediums, and we're sitting here thinking to ourselves subconsciously that we don't mean anything. So I always think about the stuff that I kind of gravitated to as a child was like G.I. Joe. And the first thing that was cool to me about G.I. Joe was the guy, it's bad, his name is Stalker today.
Yeah, man.
But Stalker, it was like black, man. I remember getting a black action figure for Christmas. You can't tell me anything. He got a beret. You know what I'm saying? He got a weapon. Like, you couldn't tell me anything. And I always remembered how that felt. Especially when you took like Billy D. Williams, who was at the time, Billy D. Williams and Dr. J was probably fighting neck and neck for the coolest human on the planet. Yeah. And you took Billy D. Williams and I ain't gonna say you emasculated him, but he was like, he ain't had no weapons. He wasn't fighting people. He wasn't shooting people. He was just like a slick dude. And it was like, nah, man.
And he sold dudes out.
And he sold, yeah, like at the end of, he redeemed himself by the end of Empire Strikes Back, but you still was like, ain't nobody trying to beat him. You know what I mean? Right. So it's like, you're processing that information and you're fans of this stuff, and there's these big empty holes. And so by telling these stories and by, including our people and centering, because centering is huge. They have put black people in stuff, but, until you start actually centering and letting the story revolve around the blackness, it's just not going to be the same. So that in itself is important, and we see it. We see the reaction that it has on the art world. We see the reaction that Black Panther had on the world, period. To make these stories normal, because I feel like the media has, you know, Hollywood included has done a lot of things to dehumanize Black people and, you know, non-white people. And so, you know, making these kids heroes, making these characters heroes can kind of move in a better direction.
Yeah, I agree with that because it's like, you know, I'm not that young myself. When I did see myself in a few things, because we were talking about that era, like Jetsons and the Flintstones and stuff. You remember like Rickety Rocket, you know, and the Cosby Kids and stuff like that. It's like, you know, when you did see yourself, you were broke off. You know, you was playing around in the junkyard. You didn't have like the nice whip like George Jetson. You was like playing around with all 6 of your friends in a spaceship with these big lips on the front, and I was like, nah, like, that's not who I want to be. And it's the same thing when you saw yourselves in, you know, the genres that you like. You'd be playing with your friends, and it's like, oh, let's play Justice League, and Kwanza, you be Jon Stewart. I was like, oh, he got a whack haircut, and I don't want to be Green Lantern. Like, I just don't. Like, now, you know, after Dwayne McDuffie got hands on him, I feel Jon Stewart more. But that's to the point of authenticity as well, because a lot of these times when we were depicted in media, it was not us telling these stories. It was getting interpreted through, you know, a white lens of who we are, you know, and where our place was in, you know, a lot of these genres and a lot of this fiction. And that's something else that needed to change as well. You know, we needed to tell our own stories from our own perspectives, and because we like this stuff too, you know, and when we get our hands on it, it's dope, you know. It's like Mace Windu, still the best like Jedi in my opinion. Who almost got the Emperor? Almost got him. And then Anakin got to come in, acting wild out. Like, he had him. And, you know, you think about like Finn, you know, another character who, well, I mean, I still like Finn. Just say, like, you know, like, I had hope. You know? But you want these characters to really sort of like exist and have like, you know, agency, you know, in the world, and like, and be able to be, you know, Luke Skywalker. And I think that's who like characters like Black Panther were for a lot of us, you know, in the past couple of years. It's like he had it, and there was no one to come in and take it except Killmonger. But that's all right, you know, it's family.
Definitely. And TJ, what we were just discussing is, why does Afrofuturism matter in manga, comics, and beyond?
Hey, appreciate y'all for bringing me on. I apologize, I did not know I was on this panel. So coming a little late, but I did catch a big bulk of the conversation, and it's incredibly important that you know, we just continue to speak about this narrative about characters of color in the future across all mediums, because clearly we've obviously been excluded, we've been marginalized, or our roles have been minimalized. And I think just you were talking about Finn, I had a lot of hope for that character to be, you know, very, very significant within that story. And he just wasn't. It was very disappointing, but it was billed as like, oh, look, Star Wars is more diverse, and oh, we may have a Black Jedi and he's going to be dope. And it just was none of that. And I think it was very disappointing for me. But I think about other great shows, whether, like, let's say something like a One Punch Man or a My Hero Academia, that has characters of color that are underutilized or either made fun of, you know what I'm saying? So like, there's lots of different spaces, whether it's manga, anime, movies, where our characters are in there, but we're not really in there the way we're supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? But again, with people that are not us controlling those narratives, and that's what we need to take that control back and just tell our own stories, you know, from the jump.
You're so right about that. And honestly, to be honest, as a manga creator, I really, on one side, look up to American style when it comes to Afrofuturism. You have a better portrayal of Afrofuturism. Because when I look at manga, I see like the portrayal of Black characters, for example, like Usopp in One Piece, always afraid, always scared, always lying. He's African, but there's no cultural context of what country he's from. And then he knows voodoo. And then in the anime, they hang him in one of the episodes. Another one they discussed was Terraform Mars, where they literally said they sent cockroaches into outer space, because that's their perception of Black people in the future. They sent cockroaches into outer space in the year 23,000, I remember. The point is that after some time, the roaches terraformed Mars, and then they end up looking like Black people. And they had like the textured hair. They had guns sideways. They were overly masculine. You know, all these type of negative portrayals. I'm like, look, this is disgusting. That's why I wanted to make an Afrofuturism manga, because as you mentioned, TJ, we have to be in control of our own narrative. And as you talked about Kwanza, I do believe that agency is necessary, which is why I even, made the comic, the manga, and why I wanted to do this panel as well, because we need to not even just be the change we want to see, actually finish it, put it out, and show representation to people who are in this genre, who love this story, but don't see the representation properly. So,
Yeah,
yes.
I was gonna say it's interesting that you brought that up too, because I'm a big manga fan. You just spoiled a bit of One Piece for me. I finally started reading it, and I'm literally at Aesop's first appearance. I'm like, who this? Who this dude? But I lived in Japan and went to school there for a bit, and one of the things that I noticed is that blackness is or what they saw blackness as is just a European or American export. Which is another reason why it's important to have control of our narratives and tell our own stories, because other people were projecting who we were into those markets. So that's when you get characters like what was his name, Mr. Popo. Like, I knew about Mr. Popo before he came over, and I was just like, man, that's not gonna sell. It's not gonna sell when that goes on TV. And they dropped him as is, and people were like, what's this? What's this? So I think that's really important, but especially when you're going into cultures that don't have that context. So they're not even looking at it and saying like, oh, this is who we want black people to be. There's this is a country that black people are from, and I say black people like African Americans are from. So this must be correct, So they just, nobody's telling them any different. So I think it's really important in those instances to be able to just, shut that down and be like, nah, that's not what it's about.
Not at all.
And we see that even here, there's people that group all of Africa together like it's one, country or it's one culture. So, that's why it's really cool for everybody, for people to be breaking out and telling their stories, because you're educating as well as entertaining.
That is essential, and that is very true. The next point I wanted to discuss was Natasha Womack stated that the tenets of Afrofuturism are imagination, technology, Black culture, liberation, and mysticism. How essential are these to the genre?
I mean, it's like, again, baking a cake. Like, those are definitely a lot of the ingredients, but just really taking what we have that exists, but just again, projecting that, in an evolved sense to that next level. You know what I'm saying? And shoot, I just think that when it comes to Afrofutures, it can really be anything. I mean, there could be horror in there. I mean, there could be drama. There could be comedy. It really depends on what we want, as long as it's progressive in the future and, taken to the next level.
Yeah, I think there should be an ingredients of that, really that I guess Afrocentrism, where it's truly centered, in our experiences. So we're not thinking the way we've been, we're not mimicking what we've seen, all throughout, and just putting a black face on something. You know what I mean? I guess it's hard for me to explain it verbally. I try to show it in the work that we do. But just making sure that we're not succumbing. One of the worst things we joke about, me and just my friends, is when a black person creates a stereotypical black person character, and it's the same as what Europeans, what white people have been doing forever. You know what I mean? God, I don't want to name names, but Tyler Perry, for instance.
Go ahead.
You don't want to name names.
But for real, you'll paint these people out to be just like what white people have told us we are for so long. You know what I mean? Not including the nuance or the the reasons that make somebody act a certain kind of way, not putting any depth into the character. And that's the part that I don't like, because when you do that, it's like we're just kind of, it's like you're just trying to shoehorn a black person in. So I don't know what that's called yet. I'm sure there's a word for it, but yeah.
I feel like I gotta have a whole separate panel now on Tyler Perry movies and Tyler Perry. It's just like, that's to break it down. No, because I mean, I look at that and I think like that sort of like storyteller is really in a really like focused lane. A real like they're not there for the in that way, you know, like that's just like comedy and two-dimensional characters and silliness and stuff like that. So even though I absolutely see the problematic stuff in there, it's like I kind of don't take it serious, so it doesn't matter in that sense. It's like it's supposed to be like a joke, you know, and obviously an audience for it. No, not all of it, but I'm just saying, like, you know, it's like, you know, that to me is like not the same as if, you know, somebody was doing like 12 Years a Slave, you know, or somebody was doing like a remake of Roots or something like that, or it's just like, yo, what is this, you know? So for something like that, it's like, you know, hey, and you're entertaining and making money and you bought a whole studio. I'm not going to be mad if I have, you know, if I was going to shoot it with Tyler Perry Studios. I want to keep the money black, you know?
Oh, yeah.
All day.
Exactly. I just love the fact that all of these things tie into Afrofuturism, and like you mentioned, TJ, it could be more than just art. You know, I've heard people say that President Barack Obama was Afrofuturist. If you consider it that way, then even Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, even going back further, just anyone who's showcasing and thinking differently than the standard paradigm of how they perceive Blackness to show something different. That's why I love this Afrofuturism genre and Black speculative fiction, because it celebrates Black excellence without always highlighting Black pain. And I feel that that's a necessity right now. And another thing I really like about it is the supernatural aspect, because in Black Panther, you know, dealing with the culture and different things like that, from Boss to all the other gods and different things, it just elevates it. It's just showing like even the way how they look at it, they have the technology physically, and then their religion to an extent, or supernatural encounters are a type of technology that's added into it. I'm just excited to see how it progresses. And speaking of Black Panther, following the success of Black Panther, how have your stories done? And why do you think that Afrofuturism is so helpful or essential in these times?
Oh man, shoot, I missed the 2017, 2018 year where it was like the build up to it and then the drop of the movie, and it was absolutely incredible. That whole time to be around in comics was pretty magical, because there was this, you know, there was already an interest in what we were doing, but I think it just kind of went to another level because people were not only reading those books, but then they were like, oh, there's more Black artists doing Black books, comics about really dope characters that look like us. So they just were more on board to even experiment and try our products, you know what I'm saying? So I think it was very beneficial, and I think it just generated a lot of really great conversation about ownership of the material. You know, even though the movie makes $1 billion, where does that money go? To a guy who owns a company that supports a president like Trump? Like, these are things that people are talking about, or we're talking about heavy. And then it just, again, circled back to like, how do we do our own versions of those types of stories that are on that level? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the other thing is like Black Panther proved something to be a lie that was always told, which is like black faces don't sell, or like, you know, only a certain type of story black with an all black cast is going to work. You know, it's like that movie, Get Out, Moonlight, just kind of across the board, just like showed the breadth and depth of like who we are, but at a profitable level, you know, like at a scale where it's just like it was undeniable that these movies, like, that people wanted it, you know, because I think that's the other value in it too, is that like people have been so used to the white lens for storytelling that now when they start to see these authentic stories, it's like all new to them. Like, not blaxploitation, it's not any of that stuff that they've seen before. It's like these authentic stories from like authentic storytellers, you know, and it's new and it's fresh, you know.
I wanted to quickly just add to that, to what Kwanza said. Like, the only two Marvel movies that have won Oscars are featuring black leads, if I'm not mistaken. Into the Spider-Verse and Black Panther.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, like, if we gonna talk about it,
that
let's
is a
talk
fact.
about it.
That's a
It,
fact.
Like, all of your
and
other characters aren't touching that. See,
and
Greg,
that's
Mm,
what I was
that's true.
gonna lead into is the fact that it showed like black excellence, which is important, right? Which means that you gave, you know, Ryan Coogler a budget to make a movie. You gave him a nice budget, and look what he did with it, right? Um, that's part of what we're seeing with Ava DuVernay and like a lot of these new directors and producers, because we look at it from every side, right? So we had actors, like everybody that was affiliated with that movie did a wonderful job. So it also dispels that thing that we can't make top notch, high quality movies, right? Even Get Out, which I'm sure the budget was nowhere close, but Jordan Peele showed that you can be miles ahead. You know what I'm saying? And create these thought provoking movies that that will resonate with not even just black people, but it's totally centered. you know. So like I think it killed a bunch of the lies, but personally, I wasn't believing those lies. I watched, pay a little bit of attention to history, and you'll see that black people have dominated pop culture since,
forever.
like for 100 years now. You know what I mean? So, for
We
them
always
to
been the
like,
culture, man. We so much the culture. White people painted different black to make entertainment. Like, come
right,
on.
right,
Amen.
right.
Dude, that's
Exactly.
Like
fact.
the music, like we could turn this into 27 panels, but yeah, so that never was my thing. So I also didn't expect, after Black Panther's success, I didn't expect them to just go knocking down doors trying to snatch us out of our houses to create for them, because at the end of the day, unfortunately, the people that own Marvel and are still non-black. So that's what makes us so much more powerful, is that we have a chance to like really make some headway. And at a certain point, I couldn't say no if somebody offered me a ton of money, but at the same time, we've already been able to create these fan bases for our authenticity, and it's just going up from there.
And
Exactly.
Greg, I just want to quickly just to your point that you just said, it's like, I know that because as dope as Tuskegee Airs is and continues to be, it's like guaranteed there's all these people that are interested in blowing it up even further. But it's like you're wanting to stay in it seems like you're wanting to stay in a space where it's like you're loving the people who support, and you're serving them first and foremost versus just thinking about a paycheck.
Yeah, and we have like, I can't, not to go too far into stuff, but we have been like looking for the right type of deals. You know what I mean? Because we know, like, if somebody puts millions of dollars into making a movie or a show or whatever, we know that we're not going to be able to keep all the control, like creative control. But we would like to keep as much as we can, because we don't want, like, we don't want Afrofuturist boondocks. You know what I'm saying? I love the boondock, but that's not what this show is. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
it's important, but like I said, at the same time, we are in a business, so we can't just like say no like right away. We gotta like vet people out.
No doubt.
Exactly. And I feel that that is so essential because you have to take, it's your idea at the end of the day. It's your intellectual property. You want to take it and let it elevate to a level that shows just how great you always believed it can be. And I believe that that's essential. And I think that that's one of the benefits of when you create your own stories, because you're authentic to the actual culture. And that's one of the things I really enjoyed about Black Panther, because when I looked at it a second time, I'm like, wait a minute, he's got Adinkra symbols like Wawa Aba, perseverance, this Roman on the father's kente cloth when he went to the spirit world, the martial arts that they're doing, capoeira, even the weapons. I saw Ilwun, Ikwa, all these like African, like they weren't even just trying to say it's European weapons, but just African people. From top to bottom, even the colors with the Messiah and everything else, it was literally grounded in Black excellence, grounded in Black culture. But as one person said, they didn't have to destroy the entire planet to get to that level of technological advancement. The earth and everything else was still there. They had roads and everything, but it was on another level. And that's brings me to the other point of what Dr. Eric Thomas said. One of the best things is that when Black people enter a field where there's creativity, whether it's art, whatever field it is, we just come in and kill it. I got to just be honest with you. When this is the truth. This is the truth. When you have literally, as you mentioned, TJ, the 2 movies that got Oscars for Marvel. Marvel's been doing this for a while. A very long while. But the movies that got the Oscars were, as you mentioned, Spider-Verse, as well as Black Panther. Come on, man. It's just amazing. Basketball, I mean, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. As I think Michelle Kimbrough said it, this world does not move without Black creativity. And I honestly have to agree. It's the truth. Truly, from one level to another. And as you mentioned as well, Kwanza, culturally and mythology, a lot of like the mythologies of Greek and other things were based off of like African, and they just changed it from one extent to the other. But in addition to all of that, because I don't want to get sidetracked, what Afrofuturism stories do you guys have coming up next?
Oh, so many.
Drop it,
I don't even have time. I'm trying to wrap up some of the like stuff because we're producing White right now, which is a sequel to Black. But I'm working on like not stuff I want to talk about like to get names to, but a horror, children's fantasy, and then another one which is like a battle manga. But I'm on my Jordan Peele about it, and it's all Black people in it. But it's not like, oh, it has to be Black. It's just like, no, like to what Greg was saying, like these happen to be these characters' stories, and these are places where I think they can exist and like play and have fun, and still have the context of like their culture and the color of their skin, play into that narrative. But it's like I'm just really trying to like get through this phase to get to the next one and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We recently dropped issue 4 Tuskegee Airs, and we're working on number 5 right now. Nice. We're also so my brother, I know TJ, you met my brother before.
Yeah, Kelly.
He has a story that he's been working on for years, and we're finally ready to push the button on that. I'm gonna be like assisting in writing, but it's his story. I'm editing it and publishing it. It's called The Story of Solace. It's really cool. I like it. So yeah, we're doing that, and then Marcus is also helping, produce that with me and my brother, and then me and Marcus, we're working on something. We're not able to talk about it right now, but it's like some futuristic in the past type, like cool stuff. So we got that as well. I'm trying to think. Mostly everything else is kind of like current day or right now that I'm working on. Mm-hmm. Oh no, I'm working on one more. I'm sorry. You guys know Dedrin Sneed, mm-hmm. right? Yeah, we have a joint called Villains in Vinyl. That's gonna be dope. It's like a hip hop, but it's in the future type of thing. It's gonna be really cool.
Yeah, shout out to Kelly, man. It's a good dude. I'm looking forward to seeing what he comes up with. And speaking of like working with, your family members, me and my brother, who you probably just saw walk into the room a few minutes ago, we're working on a really dope book about, Black kids in space that are, pilots, but also warriors too. You know what I'm saying? So we're doing a little something together, and we're kind of mixing in musical and other kind of hip hop elements as well. So we're really excited about that. Obviously, Alchemist is a sci-fi martial art action story that's, kind of spans past, present, future, which is ongoing. I just dropped number 4 with the Kickstarter we had in August, and fulfillment's happening. Issue 5's we're working on. Issue 6 I'm working on too. And then me and Newton, Lillavois, I've got a really cool book that we're working on too. That's all cyberpunk, Afrofuturism, straight up and down.
That's really dope, guys. For me, I just recently released chapter 1 of my Afrofuturism manga Bold Saga, Brave Onward's Limit Destroyer. I'm super excited because I've never seen anything like this in manga, fusing like Afrofuturism with manga, with black leads, black culture. It's just amazing. I'm working on chapter 2, and I plan to have it between this year and going forward with everything going on with the world. But that's when I plan to do it. But there's more stuff coming, and this is just, it's amazing. So what advice do you have to anyone else who wants to make an Afrofuturism story?
Oh, man, just, do that. Whatever comes to your mind, and just be completely authentic about it. Tell your story and put yourself into it, and put people into it, and just make it something that is very real to you and to the people that are around you.
Yeah, I like what TJ said, like personalizing. I personally am of the belief where every story has pretty much been told. Like, and not, I mean, just, your plot and all of that stuff. So like figuring out a way to put your own skin on it and make it yours is important. Right now we're at a time where a lot of the hurdles, that we experienced back in our, when we were young, you don't have those anymore. You can see if people really dig your idea. It's not really that hard. You put it on social media. Even if you only have a few followers, you can kind of gauge how many people are interested, and, keep going from there. You can get out and be in places where people can see it. But all of that, like, if you want to self-publish, it's probably easier today than it's ever been.
Yeah.
To market, we have all these, social medias. If you want to, crowdfund, you have, all these different crowdfunding, apps. So it's the perfect time to do it if you want to do it. Just dig in. It might feel like it might look like it can be easy, but there's a lot to it. And after you finish creating the book, that's when the real work starts. It's like, that's the part people don't really tell you. You think, cross the finish line. That is not the finish line. That's the warm up.
It's a finish line, man. It's a relay.
Right.
I think the advice I would give is, like, tell the story that you want to see out there, that makes you happy, that inspires you. Like, don't think about it in terms of like, oh, I'm about to drop the new hotness on the world and I'm gonna blow it up and change everything. Because, when I put Black out there, that wasn't even like one of, like, on my list of ideas, it wasn't even like in the top 10, but it was the one that I just felt like, man, I've been sitting on this for a while. Let me just put this out and see if people feel it. I wasn't lacking in confidence that I thought I had something, and the fact that, like, Jamal co-signed on it, Kari co-signed on it, like, people were feeling it, made me feel a little bolder. But when I put it out there, I wasn't thinking like, we were gonna hit our goals that quick. I thought it was gonna be struggle. But, that wasn't the intent behind it. The intent behind it was, I really feel like this is an important story to me, and I think that it could be important to other people. Like, that's my goal as storyteller, and I think that's one that other people, should keep in mind when they're doing this. It's not, it makes your life a lot harder if you think in terms of like, I'm writing the next Black Panther. It's like, that's some big shoes, man.
And to piggyback off of Kwanza, like, that's really real. Like, me and Marcus, we have been working for like a couple of years. We had like this whole script because we were trying to go into like either animated or live action for this other thing that we were doing, and like we were knee deep, man. We got like a hardcover episode guide. We got all this stuff done, and then one day Tuskegee Airs just like popped out of the air, And we started like posting just little stuff about it, like little images and stuff, and people lost their minds, and it went viral. And we're sitting here like, well, that wasn't even this ain't what we've been working for 2 years on. Let's do this though. But it was just like you said, it was something that we wanted to see. Like, if we could have seen that when we were kids, I don't know where we'd be, man. I might be on Mars right now, because you wouldn't have been able to stop me from doing anything,
So the power of like sequential narrative and like what these comic books do, it's literally like a gateway to everything. Whether the kid wants to get into like gaming or comics or animation or movies, like I feel like comics is like the most positive gateway anything to like a larger level of some type of artistic endeavor or career. You know what I mean?
Yes, definitely. I do agree. I even see that people like Dan Locke and Gary Vee are even turning their marketing content into comics. Why? Because it relates to people in a way that's so human, that's just beyond just seeing text and words. I just feel like that's what makes comics just exceptional. In my opinion, sometimes I even look at comics like almost like storyboards for movies. It's like they're loading up to a movie or something, as you mentioned before, Greg, animated series, live action, and so much more. Only advice I can think of, honestly, is trust the process. And I believe it was Jordan Peele that said it, story is the greatest weapon or catalyst for change. So, you just have to write a story that's authentic to you because, as you mentioned before, and everyone else has, once you make something authentic to you, people can resonate and relate to it. Instead of just trying to write something for someone and it feels forced, it's better to go natural. That's why I like the way I wrote my story, because my friend was like, yo, I can relate. We really talk like that. That's dope. That's never been done in manga. Like, they say stop capping. The point is that it's dope to amazingly make things that are authentic. So do that and just, what did the other person say? Make something cool. Do research and just make something cool. Well, we got like 10 minutes left. So before it's done, let's see. How can people stay in touch with you guys?
Who goes first? TJ, you go first.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's TJ Sterling, president and lead artist of Ray Comics. It's an absolute pleasure to be on the panel, and appreciate everybody's comments. There's a whole lot of them. Just read them now. If you want to find out more about what I do with my company, Ray Comics, that's easy to find me, at Ray Comics on all social media, and then my website, raycomics.com, raecomics.com.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as organized as TJ. I got like all kinds of stuff all over the place. So there's Tuskegee Airs, TuskegeeAirs.com. I got props. You just put a .com on there, Tuskegee Airs. And then just recently finished the Kickstarter for the Search for Sadaka. And this comic, this is not one of the comics that's been sold. It's a prop. You see they messed up at the top there. But yeah, that's on platforml7.com. And then you can go to Tuskegee Airs on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, search for Sadaka, same thing, I think.
And I guess if you need contact with me, Kwanza Osajyefo, my website is kwanzaosajyefo.com. If you want to know more about Black, that's blackthecomic.com. If you check out my work with Humanoids, h1comics.com. And my social media handles are Kwanzer, KWANZER, on Instagram and on Twitter. But, rated R warnings on the Twitter handle. We're in a political season right now. So there might be some language.
Kwanza's getting the coal and the gasoline and the matches out. Let's get it.
Oh my God!
You should have seen me at the debates last night.
That's dope. That's dope. Well, my name is Euwarnii Hughes. You can find me on Instagram at GreatGaleCo, GreatGaleCo. You can find the dopest Afrofuturism manga, Bold Saga, Brave Onwards, Limit Destroyer. That's available on the link, greatgale.com/Bold Saga. We also have a merch shop as well. So if you're looking for dope gear, hats, hoodies, so much more, man. And thank you again to Kwanza, to Greg, to TJ. Thank you again for being a part of Why Afrofuturism Matters panel. I really appreciate it. And honestly, to anybody watching this, just a side note, you always have to believe in yourself, because it was just a couple of months ago at the Schomburg. I was in the audience, and then I asked you guys a question about this. Kwanzaa was there, as well as TJ, and Greg was outside as well. You have to believe in yourself and complete what you said you're going to do, because if you really believe in it, you got to finish it. So it's been a pleasure to just not just go from the audience, but actually be a part of this creative genre. It's a blessing. And thank you again for everybody who's watching, and thank you again to everyone here tonight.
Our pleasure. Afrofuturism is the Can we say we can't curse on here? I forgot about that.
It just is. I like it. You had it. But Afrofuturism is
the boom.
Oh man, definitely. Well, thank you again, and have a great night.
You too, y'all. Take care.
Peace.